Welcome to the lair Mondo. Thank you for joining me today. I'm here to talk about my deprogramming journey from a 12-step program. I was a member of Narcotics Anonymous for over 20 years. I don't care to call myself a member anymore, even though I still attend a couple of atheist-oriented meetings every week. I don't identify any longer with the 12-step program. It's not something I'm interested in. I'm not interested in the social aspects of Narcotics Anonymous anymore, as I found a lot of the relationships there to be very toxic. I don't want to really engage myself in an environment where most people believe that they'll never completely recover. I believe today that I have completely recovered from the disease of addiction. And I'm very grateful that I have. I'm grateful to myself because I took a lot of rational, behavioral, and belief change actions to get out of addictive thinking and addictive behavior. I no longer practice obsession or compulsion. Self-centeredness is not a factor because that's a Christian concept that comes from the concept of original sin. In original sin, man is born bad. Even though in NA and the literature they try to refute that and they try to go the other way with it, they can't get away from the God control aspect of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous and of the original intention of the Oxford group. They've been very unsuccessful in doing that. I'm not interested in any of that at all. So for my intents and purposes, I had to unlearn all of the slogans of NA. I had to stop using the steps because no matter how you try to transform them into something that you think is workable, they're not. Unless you completely rewrite them into something else, which is highly recommended if you absolutely think you have to do something like this. There are other tools such as CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. There's the ABCs of CBT. There's all kinds of other tools that you can use to restructure your life. I found that I didn't have to use Christian morality and ethics because that's what the 12 steps are based on, no matter how they try to change that around. I wasn't interested in Buddhist ethics. I wasn't interested in Christian ethics. I wasn't interested in spirituality. I'm not interested in those things. I have no desire to conduct myself in such a manner. I get to believe what I want to believe, which in being an atheist, it's real simple. Life has practical, logical, rational solutions for the most part. We can have a lot of fun playing with a lot of metaphysical stuff. I'm skeptical about almost all of it, which is great. I allow other people to believe whatever they want to believe. In other words, they can talk to me about it until it gets offensive. And then if it gets offensive for whatever reason, I will simply avail myself of their company. I also don't believe that people with these kinds of beliefs, i.e. the Christian belief and ethical system, do not need to be making laws for the rest of us, as those laws are based on the original belief that man is born bad, that human nature is evil and contrary to the will of God, the will of a God who does not exist, the will of a God that puts people down. It's self-deprecating. So I refuse to be a part of that. I also refute all of the information which says, well, I don't care what people believe as long as it keeps them clean, with the great fact that 29% of people who get clean and stay clean do it by spontaneous remission. I also refute the concept that addiction is a disease that's incurable. It may cause other diseases, but there's no evidence which shows it actually qualifies as a true pathological disease. And listen carefully here. That doesn't mean that the abuse of drugs for long periods of time cannot cause physiological and biochemical changes to the organism. They, of course, can and do. And those are where the diseases, the resultant diseases, come in. In my opinion, and with what I've seen scientifically, there's no disease called addiction. It's an after the fact estimation of that by the experimental methods and instrumentation that's used that tries to come up with that kind of analysis. So basically, all of that is bullshit. So, anyway, in going forward, let us say the first thing to do has to do with getting rid of the slogans. If you believe in the slogans, it's a good idea to quit believing in them because they're not true. They're bullshit. And they're based on Christian ideology. Second thing, if you're an atheist, you have no business using the steps. You are going to have conflict over and over again. And we have seen this in many, many people. There are other methods that you can use to recover. Third, you can completely recover. Completely. You don't have a disease which is incurable, progressive, and fatal. You can recover completely and live a happy life without the use of drugs, not desiring to use them, and have friends that support you in this. Your friends and your family, in most cases, will do this. Now, family may not. You may come from a family which is abusive. And if that's the case, you get away from that family and you find friends who are supportive and not abusive. It's real simple. It's all based on common sense. The things that work in these 12-step programs come from rational thinking and common sense. They don't come from the religiosity that pollutes and poisons them into the cult that they are. And you don't have to live it that way. Now, some of us have started some meetings that try to impress this fact upon others. However, I think it's very important to get rid of the spiritual, religious language. The word spiritual has no business there. The word God has no business there. We don't have to turn God into an acronym that means something else, like good orderly direction. That's unnecessary. We can look at the practical, rational things that work in our day-to-day lives that keep us from believing that we have an incurable disease and in complete abstinence without the desire to use. We can do that. So this ends the first part of what I'm setting out to do here, which is to set about an approach for deprogramming at no charge from the 12-step program cults.